So let's be honest, the goblins are kind of the useless armies of the Old World and Sigmar. At least that's what everyone kind of tends to think from the lore. They're just nasty, hoardy greenskins that live in caves and hide from everything. But in reality, that might not be the case. Currently in the Old World, from my experience, I'm not a super experienced player, and watching all of the videos and battle reports and things like that, one of the big issues we're seeing is heavy use of magic. And a lot of people are struggling to find an answer for them, and I might have just the one for that. So let's dive into why the goblins might actually be a good option for you. So for a lot of people, they're used to goblins in the lore being the sneaky, conniving, backstabbing, almost cowards of the universe. These greenskins in some cases, they're the Night Goblins and they're a little bit different. Hide in caves and attack by night, stealing and robbing and destroying a lot of things. But they're often not considered anything more than just the almost training mobs. But when it comes to tabletop, that might not be the case. There hasn't been a lot of players actually playing the Night Goblins lately, and a lot of people don't because, frankly, it's a lot of work. When it comes to the Old World, there are a lot of painting and a lot of small miniatures that you're going to have to put a lot of work in to get them tabletop ready. But in reality, they're not that hard. Most of the time you're painting maybe 4 colors, typically 4 to 5, depending on how you build it. And it leads to what seems like a lot of work being not a ton. It's kind of like when you're painting Space Marines and you're running through a bunch of intercessors that's all the same color, and you just kind of assembly line them to get them done fast. Painting blue, and then gold, and then red, and then silver for the gun, and then you've got your entire army basically painted. Maybe add a little wash to add some highlights. And yes, that is an Ultramarines color scheme. I do not paint Ultramarines. You can't actually see them. You can see my white scars right there. But that simple style leads to a lot of different takeaways that actually allows you to be a beginning painter and actually make an army that looks really good. This whole thing started because I'm getting into the Old World. I have a Warriors of Chaos army and a Bretonnian army, which are really fun, and I've played both of them a couple times. The Bretonnians definitely aren't my style, but the Warriors of Chaos were where I enjoyed them. And then I found an eBay listing of over half of a Night Goblins army, about 2/3 of a Night Goblins army, half had been painted, and they all looked really, really good. So, and they were dirt cheap. I was able to pick them up for considerably less than I would have if I had tried to build that army myself. I think total for the entire Night Goblins army, which I have 2,000 points for now, I spent maybe $200, probably less. And I'm super excited. So far, I've burned through... I had the 2 blocks of 30 that were already painted, and then I've added another block of 30 archers, and then a block of 15 spearmen, a block of 15 archers as well. And I'm currently working on some spider riders. So it's been a lot of fun to paint and try and match the paint scheme on these Night Goblins, and it's turned out fantastically. It'll run on the tabletop and look really, really smooth and really, really cohesive, so I'm very proud of that. But it made me wonder, what's the point of Night Goblins? If they're the schlocky mob that people just mow down to give the hero something to kill early in a story, why are they so terrifying? What makes them so dangerous? Obviously, in fantasy, you have the Black Orcs, which are the smart orcs, which are horribly terrifying, but they're pretty rare. You have trolls, which are dumb and big. You have your regular greenskins that operate almost exactly the same way the greenskins do in Warhammer 40k. But what makes the goblins the goblins? If you look at Warhammer 40k, the goblins are the gits, really are useless. In a fight, I should say. They are really good at building things and assisting orcs, but they don't do a lot for the greenskin hordes themselves in an actual fight. So why in Warhammer Fantasy did they actually make this army an independent one with the Night Goblins? you can run an entire goblin army without actually bringing any other orcs to the table. My army has a few trolls, just because I wanted a big smashy somewhere in that line. But by the rules, they are completely independent. So let's talk about the reasons that I think the Night Goblins may actually be the sneaky anti-magic option, and why they're worth bringing to the tabletop. The first reason I think that goblins may be a secretly sneaky army is one of the things they're famous for in the lore that is actually pretty well portrayed on the tabletop. That is, they are very cunning before they are cowards. They will try to find any way possible to sneak around something or circumvent a problem instead of having to run from it. On tabletop, this translates to some very interesting special abilities that allow them to negate magic through certain types of orbs and additions that you can add to an army. They also have very unique magic skills that let them deflect and negate and screw with other magic users. Now, I've only tested this out a couple times. I've only had my full army built for about the last 2 months, and I've only managed to play a couple games with them. But when I was playing the Double Dragon Warriors of Chaos, the dragons were almost useless. They kept getting negated and checked, and at the same time having to fight hordes of goblins coming at them didn't work very well. They weren't able to defend themselves properly, and because that army is a cavalry-heavy army, the trolls and my spider riders were able to negate a lot of the cavalry movement. So by throwing these raw units forward with the war bosses and shamans to negate some of the magic, along with special abilities and special banners that also negated magic, and adding in that wall magic, they were annoyingly effective, I guess is the best way to put it. They're not going to win in a way you'd expect from a big chunky army like the Bretonnians or the Warriors of Chaos or any of those other armies. They're going to win in a very almost Imperial Guard way. They're going to just wear you down over time and nip at everything you do. Their archers are going to harass and flank you while the spearmen move in and corner you and pin you down. And frankly, you're not cutting through 30 goblins very quickly. Yes, they're not going to do a lot of damage to you by themselves, but 30 goblins will poke you to death with big sticks, especially when archers are behind them, shooting them, and you have shamans using wall magic to screw with your stability and your structure and your units. So this cunning, sneaky way of attacking and fighting has actually been a pretty good response to a lot of the other magic. And in the other armies, when I played them, it's almost more about who can out-magic the other one. Whereas with my Night Goblins, yes, I'm kind of out-magicking them, but I'm also doing it in sneaky ways that disrupt their magic, adding to their magic rolls or changing what their magic can do really affects the magic users as well. The next reason that goblins are as dangerous as they are is because they're good at getting animal companions. Goblins bring a lot more to the table than just themselves. Yes, a lot of other armies have horses and they have Pegasus. Well, goblins can't ride horses. They just can't do it. It's not possible. What they can do is tame other war-fighting animals. We see this with wolves, we see this with spiders and giant spiders, and sometimes they'll even bring trolls, although they won't bring them as mounts. And these animals are super effective at turning things away. Whether it be a squad of wolf riders that are able to outflank cavalry and cause utter chaos to them, or the spiders who have venomous attacks and strikes that will decimate enemy lines and are fast enough to get in behind archers and screw with their ranks as well, or the giant spider that can literally eat units of men very quickly. These extra additions to a goblin army really make them more powerful than you'd think. And I forgot to mention the trolls. The trolls are just giant smashy things. It's almost like bringing an Imperial Knight armature or even a knight itself to the tabletop when you're playing a guard army. That insane oomph and strength that unit brings is a major counterbalance to what the main units bring themselves. One of the most unique units that actually comes to tabletop with this are the Squigs and the Fanatics. The Fanatics are actually goblins that are just straight up berserkers. They're hopped up on everything under the sun, whether it be mushrooms or any other type of drug that drives them wild, and they do a decent amount of damage. They're still goblins, so decent for a goblin. Not something I expect from like a Chaos Knight or something like that. But they are quite effective at damage dealing to general infantry. My favorite, though, are the Squigs. Squigs for goblins are quite effective line breakers. They're able to swoop in quickly and disrupt a lot of units. They're often led by a couple goblins themselves, and these Squigs get even crazier if you kill the goblins. So having a horde of Squigs leading your infantry and having them smash into another line of infantry is always quite effective. They're good at breaking up lines and causing chaos. So they're a great example of what these other animals bring to the table for the goblins themselves. I know you guys are enjoying the video, but I wanted to take a brief moment to let you guys know that today's video is sponsored by me. I'm also a professional author as well as a YouTuber. So if you guys are curious about my new story, Legend of a Leatherneck, here is a brief 1-minute snippet of the first fight scene in the book.
James walked in the direction that his chaotic mind carried him, not wanting to go home, but not having anywhere else to go. For minutes, he carried the bundle clutched tightly as he walked the streets of South Boston. His mind raced in every direction, never focusing on where he was or where he was going. The sounds of the sea and the smell of the salt pulled him out of his wild trance to see the ports and industrial facilities just a block ahead of him. Before he knew where he was, a hand darted from the shadows of the alley and pulled hard on the emerald green fabric. His tight grip on the bundle pulled him from his feet and threw him into the shadows beyond. His eyes swam as he struck the brick wall head first, and the sword slipped from his grasp to clatter free on the ground. The training that the Marine Corps had beaten into him over the last 9 years kicked in as two shadowy, hooded thugs approached from the end of the alley. The sword almost jumped into his hand as long, slightly curved daggers appeared from inside the pockets on the enemy's cloaks. With a yank, James pulled the blade free of the leather sheath and held it in front of him like he'd been trained to do with his combat knife. A beam of sunlight broke through the clouds overhead and struck the blade. It ignited in a white-orange magical flame that lit the alley up like the noonday sun.
It's seen in the book, and you'll be able to check it out in the link below. It's on pre-order right now, and it comes out on June 17th. So if you're watching it after June 17th, you'll be able to get it wherever books are sold. If you're watching it before then, you can get it on my website. It's available on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and places like that for pre-order as well. Hope you guys enjoy it. The next reason I think you guys may want to try goblins is their devious mushroom-filled magic. Is their devious mushroom-fueled magic. And yes, I mean mushrooms in the hallucinogenic sense. Their magic is wild. It's off the wall, does crazy things left and right, and it can cause complete and utter chaos because it's not what players are prepared for. They're used to your usual doom bolts and debuff curses and things like that that you'll see with magic users, whether they're Chaos, Bretonnian, or Imperial, or whatever they may be. A lot of the magic systems are at least pretty similar. But as soon as you get involved with the greenskins, you have a type of Wa magic, but then your Night Goblin Shamans actually bring a little bit more to the table. They have other devious magic that will disrupt and throw things off. Some can't be counterspelled, some does weird things when you try and counterspell them, some are reactionary spells to other spells, and it can often bring a lot of chaos to the tabletop, and is honestly why I like playing the Night Goblins in the first place. I've never really been a huge fan of orcs in 40k, but the things I do like about them, the Night Goblins take and they crank to 11. They're very, very good at being disruptive and chaotic and very fun while still being almost relaxing to play. They're a lot less stressful because the weirdness is going to be weird no matter how you handle it, and it's never going to change that way. So embracing it and having fun with it leads to a lot of really, really fun games that I think you're going to really enjoy. The next big reason you may want to try out Goblins is the unending hordes of the Green Tide. The WoW magic that we've talked about operates kind of similar to what you see in Warhammer 40k with all of the buffs and accessories that go along with it. But when it comes to Goblins, you're not getting that on the 10 to 20 man units. You can have up to 60 Goblins in a single brick. I typically run 30 just because it's really, really hard to manage past that. Plus, they don't really make movement trays that big. Even though the Goblins are small, they're hard to move without movement trays. So that ability to flood the board with a lot of units isn't something that's common outside of Warhammer 40k. Yes, horde armies are pretty common in the Grimdark Future, but in Warhammer Fantasy, they're not really that common. Most units are chunkier and a little bit slower, or they're cavalry-based, but there's not a lot of mass hordes. The Imperial Band kind of gets there, but they're nowhere near the scale of their 40k equivalent, the Imperial Guard. But Goblins are very much that way. It's like running the hordes of Tormagants and Rippers you'll see sometimes with Tyranid players. These mass breaks of units are very weak individually, but it doesn't matter how good your Swordmasters or Pikemen or Cavalry are, the odds are your unit's not going to cut through all of mine. And when your unit can't cut through all of mine, I'm going to cut through yours. And you're going to struggle to maintain that control when you have 10 units and I have 30. So these unstable hordes aren't something that a lot of the old world players are expecting. So that's the reason I think the Night Goblins may be a sneaky good army and a great starting place for simple players. Like I said, easy to paint. They don't operate the way most old world players expect them to. They are very good at annoying and manipulating magic. So it makes magic-heavy armies pretty unstable. I'm not going to say weak, they're still quite powerful. But when you're dealing with Night Goblins, even if your spell goes off, it's not going to kill enough to really make a difference most of the time. So those simple magic issues are going to struggle against a massive horde army with really, really cool mounts and giant spiders and wolves and squigs, as well as a lot of ranged artillery from rock throwers, rock lavas, and a bunch of different types of launching systems, whether you're launching actual goblins with kites to sneak behind enemy lines, or just stick throwers and launching giant spears at people. And it's got a lot of potential, and I kind of want to see more people bringing it to the tabletop because I think it may be a missed opportunity for you guys. So if you're curious about starting a Night Goblins army, make sure you guys check out my social media. I'll be sharing more about it moving forward. And don't forget to check out today's sponsor, me. My newest book just went on pre-order. It's Legends of Leatherneck. It's going to pop up right here. And you'll be able to get that with a bunch of cool merch, as well as Readers of Wargame merch on my website at the link below. And I will see you guys in the next one.